The security guards escorted me out at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, 20 years and 3 months after I'd first walked through the doors of the Galactic Trade Consortium's Earth headquarters. They gave me 15 minutes to pack my personal belongings into a provided box, standard termination protocol, as if 2 decades of loyalty could be summarized in cardboard and 15 minutes. My name is David Martinez, former Senior Logistics Coordinator for the GTC, former believer in the system, former fool who thought hard work and dedication meant something. "It's just business, David," Director Harrison had said, not even looking up from his data pad as he delivered the news. "The new AI optimization systems are more efficient. Your position has been declared redundant. You'll receive the standard severance package, 3 months' salary and continuation of basic benefits for 6 months. 3 months' salary. For 20 years. I didn't argue, didn't plead. I just nodded, packed my box, and walked out of the building where I'd spent the majority of my adult life ensuring that trade routes between Earth and 17 alien civilizations ran smoothly. Where I'd worked through holidays, missed family events, sacrificed relationships, all for a company that replaced me with an algorithm without a second thought. The guards deposited me on the sidewalk outside the GTC tower at exactly 5:02 p.m. The evening commute was starting, thousands of people flowing past me like I was invisible. I stood there holding my box of memories, photos, a coffee mug, a commendation plaque from 10 years ago that suddenly felt meaningless, and wondered what the hell I was supposed to do now. My phone buzzed, text from my sister, "Still on for dinner Saturday?" I'd forgotten. Of course I'd forgotten. I'd been preparing the quarterly logistics report for the Valorian trade delegation, the one that apparently didn't matter anymore because an AI could do it faster. I texted back, "Yes." Sorry, crazy day. Crazy didn't begin to cover it. The first week was the worst. I kept waking up at 5:30 a.m., my body clock still programmed for the early shift I'd maintained for 2 decades. I'd shower, dress, make coffee, and then remember I had nowhere to go. I applied for jobs, sent out my resume to every company in the logistics sector, got back automated rejections or, worse, complete silence. Turns out a 52-year-old former coordinator whose expertise had been declared obsolete wasn't exactly a hot commodity. "Have you considered retraining?" the career counselor at the unemployment office suggested. "There are programs for displaced workers, data analysis, AI maintenance, quantum programming. I spent 20 years becoming an expert in interspecies trade logistics," I said, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. "I know the cultural customs of 17 different civilizations. I can navigate trade disputes that would take others months to resolve. I personally handled the Andromedan fruit crisis of 2043 that almost started a diplomatic incident." "That's all very impressive," she said with the kind of smile that meant she didn't actually care. "But the market is moving toward automated solutions. You need to adapt." Adapt. Right. At 52, start over from scratch and compete with 25-year-olds who'd grown up with technology I was still learning. I left the office feeling older than I'd ever felt in my life. Week 3, I was in my apartment eating instant noodles for the 4th night in a row when my door chimed. The display showed an official-looking woman in a tailored suit standing in my hallway. "Mr. Martinez?" she called through the intercom. My name is Catherine Wells. I'm from the Velorian Embassy. May I speak with you? The Velorians were one of my primary accounts at GTC. One of the reasons I'd won that commendation 10 years ago, I'd streamlined their entire supply chain for medical equipment shipments to their colony worlds. I opened the door cautiously. If this is about transitioning my accounts to the new AI system, I don't work for GTC anymore. I know, that's why I'm here. She produced an official credential chip. May I come in? This conversation is rather sensitive. Curiosity overcame suspicion. I let her in, acutely aware of how my apartment looked, dishes in the sink, newspapers scattered around, the general air of someone whose life had fallen apart. Catherine Wells didn't seem to notice or care. She sat in my worn armchair like it was a throne, her posture perfect. Mr. Martinez, you handled the Velorian accounts for GTC for the past 12 years, correct? 13, I corrected automatically. Started in late 2032. 13 years, during which time trade efficiency between Earth and Velorian territories increased by 47%. Diplomatic incidents decreased by 62%. And the Velorian government specifically requested you by name for handling sensitive negotiations on 3 separate occasions. I was good at my job, past tense. The realization stung. You were exceptional at your job, which is why Queen Thessara is extremely unhappy about your termination. She pulled out a tablet displaying official documents. The GTC informed us that you'd been replaced by an AI optimization system that would be more efficient. They failed to mention they were doing so without consulting us. I don't understand. What does the Queen have to do with my employment? Everything, as it turns out. Catherine leaned forward. You see, Mr. Martinez, trade agreements between Earth and Veloria contain specific provisions about personnel. The Velorian government has final approval on any changes to key positions that affect our trade relationship. Your position was classified as key personnel. I blinked. I never knew that. Neither did GTC apparently, or they knew and chose to ignore it, hoping we wouldn't notice. Her smile was sharp. We noticed, and Queen Thessara has invoked Article 17 of the Trade Agreement, which allows her to personally intervene in matters of diplomatic importance. What does that mean? It means, Mr. Martinez, that the Queen is coming to Earth, personally, to address what she considers a breach of diplomatic protocol and a personal insult to Velorian Earth relations. Catherine stood. She'll arrive in 3 days, and she specifically requested a meeting with you. After she left, I sat in my apartment staring at the wall, trying to process what just happened. The Queen of Veloria, ruler of a civilization spanning 12 star systems, leader of 4 billion people, was coming to Earth because I'd been fired. It was absurd, impossible, completely insane. And yet 3 days later, I found myself standing in a secured meeting room at the Velorian Embassy, wearing the one good suit I still owned, waiting to meet royalty. Queen Thessara of Veloria was nothing like I'd imagined from the official portraits and diplomatic footage. Yes, she was tall. Velorians averaged 7 feet with the characteristic blue-tinted skin and silver hair that marked her species. Yes, she wore robes that probably cost more than my annual salary. Yes, she carried herself with the dignity of someone born to rule. But she also looked genuinely angry. "Mr. Martinez," she said, her accent giving my name a musical quality. I am pleased to finally meet you in person, though I wish it were under better circumstances. I bowed slightly, trying to remember the proper Velorian greeting. Your Majesty, the honor is mine. The honor is mine, she corrected gently. You have served my people well for 13 years. Your dedication to understanding our customs, your attention to detail, your genuine care for ensuring our needs were met. These things do not go unnoticed. She gestured for me to sit at a conference table where several Velorian officials and human diplomats were already seated. I recognized a few faces from GTC, including Director Harrison, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Let us address the situation directly, Queen Thessara said, taking her seat at the head of the table. The Galactic Trade Consortium has terminated Mr. Martinez's employment and replaced him with what they call an AI optimization system. They did so without consultation, without notice, and without regard for the diplomatic implications. Your Majesty, Harrison began, with all respect, personnel decisions are internal matters for GTC. We have the right to structure our operations as we see fit. You have the right to manage your company, yes. The Queen's voice remained calm but carried an edge of steel. You do not have the right to violate trade agreements. Article 17 specifically requires consultation on changes to key personnel positions. Mr. Martinez's position was classified as such in 2037 when he successfully negotiated the medical equipment protocols that saved 14,000 Velorian lives during the colony outbreak. Harrison's face paled slightly. We were not aware. Then your organization is incompetent, which is concerning given that you handle billions of credits in trade annually. She turned to me. Mr. Martinez, would you please explain to those assembled what your actual job entailed? I cleared my throat, feeling every eye in the room on me. I coordinated logistics for Velorian trade routes, but that was only part of it. Mostly, I acted as a cultural liaison. The Velorians have specific customs around trade, timing, presentation, communication protocols. An AI can optimize shipping routes, but it can't understand why delivering medical supplies during a mourning period is insulting, or why certain goods need to be presented in specific ways, or how to navigate the subtle social dynamics of Velorian business culture. Exactly, Queen Thessara said. For 13 years, Mr. Martinez ensured that trade between our civilizations was not just efficient but respectful. He learned our language, not the simplified trade dialect but actual Velorian. He studied our history, our customs, our values. When my daughter needed specialized Earth medical treatment 3 years ago, Mr. Martinez personally coordinated her care with such discretion and sensitivity that my family remains grateful. I'd forgotten about that. Princess Vera's treatment had been classified, handled through private channels. I'd worked 70-hour weeks for 2 months ensuring everything went smoothly, never told anyone, never asked for recognition. Your AI cannot do these things, the Queen continued. It can move goods from point A to point B. It cannot build relationships. It cannot demonstrate respect. It cannot understand that some things are more important than pure efficiency. Your Majesty, one of the human diplomats interjected carefully. While we appreciate your concerns, we must also acknowledge that business practices evolve. Automation is the future. Then it is a future without Velorian participation. Queen Thessara's words fell like a hammer. As of this moment, I am suspending all trade agreements between Veloria and any company that does not maintain qualified human liaisons for diplomatic trade positions. The Galactic Trade Consortium has 30 days to reinstate Mr. Martinez to his former position, with appropriate compensation for this insult, or lose its trading privileges with all Velorian territories. The room erupted. Harrison and the other GTC executives were frantically consulting their data pads, no doubt calculating how much money they were about to lose. Velorian trade represented nearly 18% of GTC's annual revenue. "Your Majesty," Harrison said desperately, "surely we can reach some accommodation. We can. Hire back Mr. Martinez. Acknowledge that some positions require human judgment, cultural understanding, and genuine relationship building that no AI can replicate." She stood, and everyone immediately rose with her. "You have treated a valuable employee as disposable, dismissed expertise as obsolete, and prioritized quarterly profits over diplomatic relationships. These are not the actions of a civilization worth trading with." She turned to me. "Mr. Martinez, I understand this is highly irregular, but I would like to offer you a position with the Velorian Trade Ministry. We need someone to coordinate Earth relations from our side, someone who understands both cultures, who has proven their dedication and discretion." I stared at her. "Your Majesty, I'm honored, but I'm not a diplomat. I'm just a logistics coordinator. You are a bridge between civilizations. You are proof that humans at their best value relationships over efficiency, respect over profit, and loyalty over expediency." Her smile was warm. "And you speak better Velorian than half my court. The position is yours if you want it. Salary commensurate with a senior ministry position, housing on Veloria Prime or Earth as you prefer, full diplomatic status." I should have accepted immediately. It was an incredible offer, the kind of opportunity that doesn't come twice in a lifetime. But I hesitated, looking at Harrison and the other GTC executives. "Permission to speak freely, Your Majesty?" I asked. She nodded, curiosity in her eyes. "I appreciate this more than I can say, but I'm not doing this for revenge or to prove a point. I loved my job at GTC. I loved what I did, who I worked with, the relationships I built." I looked at Harrison. "I spent 20 years of my life with that company. I missed my daughter's graduations, my father's funeral, my own anniversary dinners. I did it because I believed in the work, believed it mattered." I turned back to Queen Thessara. "So before I accept your generous offer, I want to ask GTC directly, was any of that worth anything? Did 20 years of loyalty mean nothing the moment an algorithm proved cheaper?" Silence filled the room. Finally, Harrison spoke, and to his credit, he looked genuinely ashamed. "No, it wasn't worth nothing. You were. You are one of the best employees we've ever had, but the board demanded cuts, demanded efficiency improvements, and you were expensive. Experienced employees with your salary grade were the first targets. So it came down to money. It always comes down to money." He met my eyes. "I'm sorry, David, you deserved better, but that's not how the world works anymore." "Then maybe the world needs to work differently." I looked at everyone assembled. "Your Majesty, I accept your offer, not because I'm angry, though I am, but because you've reminded me that some people still value things that can't be quantified in quarterly reports. Relationships, respect, loyalty." Queen Thessara smiled. "Then welcome to the Velorian Trade Ministry, Ambassador Martinez. I believe you will find our approach to employment somewhat different from what you've experienced. The news spread fast. Alien Queen intervenes in human employment dispute dominated headlines for a week. Social media exploded with takes, some praising Queen Thessara for standing up for workers' rights, others criticizing her for interfering in Earth's business practices. But the real story was subtler and more important. Within 3 months, 14 other alien civilizations followed Veloria's lead, implementing requirements for human cultural liaisons in trade positions. The pure automation trend slowed as companies realized that relationships with alien partners required actual relationship building, not just optimized algorithms. GTC's stock plummeted. Several board members resigned. And slowly, quietly, other companies started reconsidering their automation at all cost strategies. I moved to Veloria Prime, into an apartment that overlooked one of their famous crystal gardens. My new job was challenging. Coordinating Earth relations meant navigating both human and Velorian bureaucracies, but it was also deeply satisfying. And I had weekends, actual weekends when I wasn't expected to work. Time to video call my daughter, my sister, my friends. Time to finally live the life I'd been postponing for 20 years. 6 months into my new position, I received a message from Harrison. He'd left GTC and was starting a consulting firm focused on, ironically, human-alien business relations. "I learned something from watching you," his message said. "Sometimes the old way is the right way. Not everything needs to be disrupted or optimized. Sometimes you just need good people doing good work, building real relationships. Thank you for teaching me that, even if I learned it too late to keep you." I didn't respond immediately. Part of me was still angry about how it had all ended. But a bigger part remembered that Harrison had been under pressure too, trapped in a system that valued short-term profits over long-term relationships. Finally, I replied, "Good luck with the consulting firm. And remember, the best optimization is building something that lasts." A year after my firing, Queen Thessara hosted a diplomatic reception on Veloria Prime. Representatives from 30 civilizations attended, including a delegation from Earth. I was standing in the reception hall making small talk with a Centaurian trade minister when the Queen approached with someone I didn't recognize, a young woman, maybe 30, carrying herself with nervous energy. "Ambassador Martinez," Queen Thessara said formally, though her eyes held warmth. "I'd like you to meet Lisa Chen. She's the new head of GTC's Cultural Liaison Division." I shook Lisa's hand. "Cultural Liaison Division? That's new." "Very new," Lisa said. "Created 6 months ago after the board realized that, algorithms don't actually understand nuance. We're hiring specialists for each major alien civilization we trade with. People who can do what you did, build relationships, understand cultural context, see beyond pure efficiency." Sounds like progress. It is, but it shouldn't have taken losing you for us to figure it out. She hesitated. "I read all your reports, your case files, your cultural analyses. They were brilliant. I'm using them as training materials for the new liaisons. I hope that's okay." Of course, I meant it. If my work could help others do the job well, that was worth something. Queen Thessara smiled. "You see, David, your 20 years were not wasted. They built something that lasted even if your former employers were too blind to see it at the time." She was right. The firing had been unfair, the circumstances painful, but the work itself had mattered. The relationships I'd built, the bridges I'd created between civilizations, those things endured. 2 years after I'd been escorted out of GTC headquarters with my box of belongings, I stood in that same building's lobby. But this time I was there as a visiting dignitary, part of Queen Thessara's official state visit to Earth. The lobby had changed. Where there used to be motivational posters about efficiency and optimization, there were now displays highlighting the company's cultural bridge builders, employees whose job was to understand and respect alien civilizations. A young man approached me, couldn't have been more than 25, eager face, expensive suit. Ambassador Martinez, I'm Tom Reeves, one of the new cultural liaisons. I just wanted to say thank you. Your work on Valorian customs is required reading in our training program. The section on mourning periods and trade timing literally saved me from a major diplomatic incident last month. You're welcome, I said, feeling something warm bloom in my chest. Keep up the good work, and remember, the relationships are more important than the efficiency reports. Yes, sir, that's our division motto now, actually. Relationships over reports, he grinned. Apparently, that's something you used to say. I had said that. Usually to myself at 3 a.m., when I was working on some cultural analysis that would never show up in any efficiency metric but might prevent a diplomatic disaster. Queen Thessara joined me, her diplomatic entourage spreading out behind her. "Ready for the formal meeting?" she asked quietly. "As ready as I'll ever be." We walked into the conference room where years ago I'd been told my services were no longer required. The faces were different, new executives, new board members, but the room was the same. The new CEO, a woman named Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, stood to greet us. "Your Majesty, Ambassador Martinez, thank you for accepting our invitation." "Thank you for extending it," Queen Thessara replied graciously. "I understand you wish to discuss expanding trade relations." "We do, but first we wanted to formally apologize." Dr. Okonkwo looked directly at me. "What happened to you was wrong. GTC made a decision based purely on financial optimization without considering the human cost or the diplomatic implications. We've spent the past 2 years rebuilding our approach, creating systems that value both efficiency and relationships. But none of that changes the fact that we failed you." She pulled out a small box, placed it on the table. "This is inadequate, but we wanted you to have it." A Lifetime Achievement Award from GTC, recognizing 20 years of exceptional service and pioneering work in interspecies trade relations. It comes with a formal apology and a significant financial settlement for wrongful termination. I opened the box. Inside was a crystal award beautifully crafted with an inscription, "David Martinez, Bridge Builder, Culture Bearer, Proof that Humanity Matters." "The settlement isn't necessary," I said quietly. "I have a good position now, and I'm happy." "It's necessary for us," Dr. Okonkwo said. "We need to acknowledge our mistake, and we need the world to know that GTC has learned from it." I looked at Queen Thessara, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "Then I accept," I said. "Not for myself, but for every other employee who's been discarded as obsolete when they were really just experienced. For everyone who's been told their loyalty doesn't matter because an algorithm is cheaper." The settlement funded a foundation, the Martinez Initiative for Workplace Dignity, that advocated for workers' rights in the age of automation. It provided legal support for wrongfully terminated employees and pushed for legislation requiring companies to consider human impact alongside financial efficiency. I remained with the Valorian Trade Ministry, eventually rising to Chief Ambassador for Earth Relations. I watched my daughter get married, met my grandchildren, finally had time for the life I'd postponed for so long. And every time I gave a speech about interspecies relations or workplace dignity or the value of human expertise, I thought about that Tuesday afternoon when I'd been escorted out with my box of belongings, thinking my career was over. I'd been wrong. My career hadn't ended that day. It had transformed into something bigger than I'd ever imagined. Because sometimes being fired isn't the end of your story. Sometimes it's the beginning of the chapter where you finally get the recognition you deserved all along. And sometimes, just sometimes, a queen crosses the galaxy to remind the world that loyalty, expertise, and human dignity are worth fighting for. Even in an age of algorithms and automation, some things still matter. Some things will always matter. And I'd spent 20 years proving it, even if it took being fired for anyone to notice.